Welcome everybody to the 20th episode of JewishDrinking.com's podcast and video. I'm very excited because this is also the very last one before Purim. It's the third of three in a Purim series because, you know, we got to get ready for, you can't just walk into Purim, you got to get ready for it. So this is the third of three discussions, podcast episodes on Purim, and I'm very excited to welcome back Rabbi Eli Simpson. Thank you for joining us.
Sure, pleasure.
Who is Magid Shiur at the local Cincinnati the Chabad Masifta. He previously was on talking about drinking in Chassidut and Hasidus and in Hasidic thinking. And today I'm super duper excited because I'm familiar with drinking in the Gemara and although it gets really complicated in medieval ages what the Rishonim do. But I'm really curious to hear in Hasidus and more specifically in Chabad, Lubavitcher Hasidus in particular. So we can start off with the Gemara. For those less familiar, yes, in the book, actually, you know what, before we get even started, we have some vodka here, some water, and l'chaim. Amen. All right, so now that we've kicked that off, really drinking on Purim starts really with the Book of Esther. We see drinking, there are 8 or 9 different mishta'ot, drinking incidences or events, parties. It's a lot of wine is had in the entire book. And towards the end, we see that these days, the 14th and 15th of Adar, Yimei Mishteh v'Simcha. They're not only days of rejoicing and being happy, but drinking also, right? So we see that very, right from the outset in the Bible, in the Tanakh.
In fact, I'll just throw in just a short thought.
Yeah.
Where do we see that you're supposed to get absolutely drunk? That drunk in the Megillah.
Okay.
It says that you're supposed to drink, but where does it say you have to get drunk?
Yeah.
If you read the pasuk says V'noach b'arba asar. It literally means that you have to rest on the 14th. They rested on the 14th. Okay. But V'noach, we know who Noach was. Yeah. Noach was the first one to get drunk. The Megillah is telling us V'noach b'arba asar. On the 14th, do we have to be like Noach? You got to go all the way.
That's really clever. I like that. That's really clever. And I'm sure viewers and listeners also love this. So in the Gemara, it's one of the funny things, actually in Mishnah Megillah, there's zero discussion of drinking or wine at all. But in the Gemara, in Megillah 7b, we do see that Rava, the 4th century Amora, he was the light of his generation, he said, that you got to get drunk, people got to get drunk on Purim, Adilo Yada, Bein Aror Haman Uvarach Mordechai, and how blessed Mordechai is and cursed Haman is. So, of course, we then see subsequently a story between Rabba and Rabbi Zera where they have a really special Purim Suda. They get drunk. Rabba kills Rabbi Zera, but he is able to revive him, and which is an interesting story. And I don't know if we're going to get into that discussion.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But just to be clear,
but
it's Rabba.
Yeah, it's Rabba.
Right. It's right. I'm saying
right. It's
Rabba is the one
who is Rabba's teacher.
Not to confuse Rava and Rabba.
Right.
Okay.
But if you do, you can check out the last 2 episodes where that discussion takes place. Is that Rabba, Rava, and all the various manuscripts. But in this one, we're just going to take it as the printed edition, which is that it's Rabba, the teacher of Rabba, and Rabbi Zera.
Yes.
So. Yes. All right. So I'm familiar with the Gemara, the Talmud, and anybody, if you're less familiar, go check out the last 2 episodes where we had discussions with other people. But I'm curious. So what's
okay? So let's start with. Why do we drink on Purim? This teaching of Rava, Chayev inish lebesumei bepuria, a person is supposed to get drunk on Purim, so he doesn't know the difference between Aror Haman and Baruch Mordechai. Why would you want to reach such a state of drunkenness that you don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai? Now, granted, there are those who explain...
Can I intercede?
Sure.
Why not just simply getting drunk? Like, what's the significance of distinguishing between Mordechai and Haman?
Okay, great. I'm just going to throw that in. We'll get into that as well. But why would you want to get confused between Haman and Mordechai? I mean, a person always wants to have his head on straight. He knows that Mordechai is good and Haman is bad. Mordechai represents Torah, mitzvahs, all the positive things. Haman represents all negative things. Why would we want to confuse Mordechai and Haman?
So you're saying in Hasidic thought, Hasidut, that's how Haman and Mordechai are presented?
Right.
As representing those things.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, granted, the simple explanation is that both Aror Haman cursed is Haman, and Baruch Mordechai, blessed is Mordechai, are both positive things. One is cursing Haman, and one is blessing Mordechai. And we just get so confused that we don't know the difference between this positive aspect and that positive aspect. But the simple understanding is that we kind of get confused between Haman and Mordechai, like we confuse the good and the bad. So why is that a positive thing, and what does that have to do with Purim, right? What's the connection specifically to Purim? Which is something which we don't find anywhere else. In fact, the Torah is very, very clear that drinking too much is not a good thing. And the Rambam is very, very powerful in the Moreh Nevuchim in part 3, where he speaks about all of the negative effects that come from drinking too much. A person who drinks too much till he reaches a state of absolute drunkenness is exempt from all mitzvahs of the Torah. We don't want to be exempt of the mitzvahs of the Torah. We want to be obligated to do the mitzvahs, right? So all of a sudden, when it comes to Purim, drinking becomes a positive thing, and drink, and don't just drink until you get drunk. When it comes to Yom Tiv, so the Bezdin would send out guards to make sure that people don't drink too much. It shouldn't lead to frivolity or things like that. And Purim is the exact opposite.
Do you think Rambam in the Mishnah Torah about Purim drinking, is that what let him just say drink a little bit, sleep it off, and you'll be fine?
Actually, that's not exactly what he writes.
I know, I was collapsing. Okay.
Yeah, he says a person should drink until he falls asleep from his drinking, just drinks himself to sleep.
Oh wow!
So
it's a really solid sleep.
Oh yeah, he's totally out. In order to understand that, we have to really go back to understand what the Yom Tov of Purim is all about. What's this holiday of Purim? And we'll start by asking, why is Purim called Purim? Okay, Purim means lots. We know that the story of Purim, Haman decreed to kill all of the Jewish people. In order to choose a date on which to annihilate the Jewish people, he cast lots, and he chose the date, the 13th of Adar. In the end, the 13th of Adar was the day that the Jewish people fought against their enemies, and they annihilated their enemies, and they were saved. So, and they rested on the 14th day of Adar. That is the holiday of Purim. But why do we call the holiday Purim, lots, which number one seems to be just an ancillary, aspect to the whole story.
Right.
Haman decided to kill the Jewish people. By the way, in order to do it, he cast lots.
Right. It's not a pivotal story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And besides for everything, that's part of the decree. Take for example the holiday of Pesach, Passover. Right. Hashem passed over the homes of the Jewish people. They were saved. The Egyptians were killed. Right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. We're called a holiday Passover. Right?
Yeah.
Sukkot. Hashem protected the Jewish people, like with a tent.
Yeah.
So we call the holiday Sukkot. Hanukkah. Right? Inauguration of the Beis Hamikdash, or they rested on the 25th. However you want to interpret it, it's a positive name.
Yeah.
Purim. The day that Haman cast lots to kill the Jewish people. Why do we call the holiday Purim? In fact, Chassidus teaches that this idea of casting lots is central both to the decree of Haman as well as to the miraculous salvation of the Jewish people. So the explanation is as follows. We know that Hashem's essence, God's essence, is beyond all definition. Cannot be defined in any which way. Hashem is infinite. Hashem is beyond infinity. Even calling Hashem infinite is putting some sort of description. Hashem is beyond finiteness and infinity. Hashem's essence is untouchable, unapproachable.
Okay.
At the same time, Hashem decided to create a world. And in this world, he decided to have the Jewish people, and he chose that the Jewish people should perform the Torah and mitzvahs, and things should operate in a specific way, in an orderly fashion. If you do Torah and mitzvahs, you get rewarded. When a person, chas v'shalom, transgresses Torah and mitzvahs, there's punishment, reward and punishment. Hashem set an order into place. Whereas Hashem's essence is really beyond all Torah and mitzvahs and everything, like the pasuk actually in Eov says, there's a pasuk in Eov that says, Im chatasa ma tifal bo. If you sin against him, that has no effect. V'rabu pshe'echa ma tasalo. If you increase your sins to no end, it totally doesn't touch Hashem. Im tzadakta, if you're righteous, Ma titanloi, what do you have to offer him? Ma miyot chitcha, what does he get from you? He doesn't get anything from you. That's talking about Hashem's essence, which is beyond the realm of Torah and mitzvahs. So now, Haman was a terrible, terrible person. Like we said, represents all negative, all evil in the world, decides that he wants to destroy the Jewish people. Now, the Jewish people, we know then at the time of the story of Esther, were in a very low state. They had partaken of the feast of Ahasuerus, they'd eaten non-kosher food and various other negative things that were going on, and so they were, they were not at their height, at their in their best place. But still, compared to Haman, the Jewish people were way here.
Yeah.
So if Haman wants to destroy the Jewish people, and he knows that the Jewish people are the apple of Hashem's eye, so he needs to enlist some divine assistance in order to destroy the Jewish people. So he realizes that within the framework that Hashem set up of how the world operates according to Torah and mitzvahs, he has no chance. He's on the bottom and the Jews are on the top. So Haman decides to go to a place, to ascend to a place that is beyond order, beyond reason, beyond intellect, beyond godly intellect, to reach that level of Hashem's essence, where everything is equal, where Torah, mitzvahs, or conversely sinning, averis, things like that, have no effect. And he wants to reach that level, and on that level he says, there's no difference between me and the Jewish people. There's no difference between Rabu Pishaecha, between the person who's the worst sinner, and in Tzedakta, the person who is righteous. And from that level, he wants to elicit divine assistance to destroy the Jewish people.
Okay.
So how does he do that? In order to bring about his decree, symbolic of ascending up to this level, he casts lots. The idea of lots is when you have, as long as there are differences between two things and you can intellectually choose one over the other, there's no room to cast lots. It doesn't make sense to cast lots if one thing has an advantage over something else.
Okay.
When you have two things that are equal and you don't know which one to choose, so then you say, okay, the only thing to do over here is to cast lots, because here we're at a realm where reason cannot choose, cannot make a rational decision. We're beyond rationality.
Okay.
And therefore we have to reach this high level of the goyrel, of the lots, in order to choose one side over the other. So this is what Haman is doing. Haman is reaching out towards a level beyond intellect, beyond reason, and saying on that level, on the level of Purim, that's where I can really stick it to the Jewish people, right? Now the miracle is that even on the level which is beyond Torah and mitzvahs, which touches Hashem's very essence, even on that level, Hashem says, you know what? Even if Yaakov and Esav, the Jews and Haman, are equal, I still love the Jewish people. Even at a level where, so to speak, makes no difference what they do, I still love the Jewish people. Like the Pasuk says that Yaakov and Esav are brothers. Meaning, we're talking about a level where they're both brothers, where they're both equal. And nevertheless, Yaakov, I choose to love Yaakov, Esav Sanesi, just because my deep connection that I have with the Jewish people. So Purim is all about that. Not only are we connected to Hashem because of what we do, because of our performance of Torah mitzvahs, Purim brings about the fact, it expresses the idea that a Jew is innately connected to Hashem beyond anything, beyond whatever he does.
Okay.
And that's the miracle of Purim. Now, how do we recognize that? How do we connect to that in our experience of Purim? You know the answer, right? We say l'chaim, we drink until we reach a state of ad lo yoda, till we don't know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. We reach that state of Purim. We reach the state that goes beyond intellect in order to touch that level from where the salvation of the Jewish people came about.
Okay.
So
you're connecting to that level of salvation for the Jewish people.
Right.
Okay.
That's where Haman wanted to reach. He thought if he gets there, surely he'll be able to annihilate the Jewish people, right, to do his scheme. And the miracle was that even on that level, Hashem chooses the Jewish people.
Wow.
So we have these two sages, these two Amoraim. We have Rabbah, we have Reb Zera, and they have a Sudat Purim. They have a Purim meal together.
Yeah.
And of course, they said l'chaim, as good Jews do. And the Gemara says, "Come, Rabba arose, shachti le Reb Zera." He slaughtered Reb Zera.
Yeah.
Right. Next day, he wakes up. He sees that the Reb Zera is lying there. So he davens. He beseeches Hashem for mercy. Please bring Reb Zera back to life. Sure enough, Reb Zera comes back to life.
It's a little vague. It's not necessary. He revives him somehow, whether it's through prayer, whether he did something physically.
Okay,
but he brings him back.
Shachti means he was slaughtered, like he was.
That's
dead.
true, but the reviving, he could have physically revived him somehow, or miraculously.
Okay. Either way, it seems like it's a
miracle.
From the continuation of the story, it's clearly evident that it was a miracle because he says the next year Rabbi comes to Reb Zera and he says, Reb Zera, maybe let's go for round 2, right?
Let's do it again.
So
it was a great party.
I had a good time. Yeah. So Reb Zera says, not every day do we experience miracles, right?
Which I love, because you know what I think that's great about that?
Sure, tell me.
He's not saying, I didn't have a good time. He said, I had a great time.
Excellent.
And even with you. The drinking was great, the feasting was great, the company was great. I don't even mind being killed so much. I just don't trust that I'll be revived again.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And that is very, very fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Like he's saying, now, but I want to maybe point out the other side.
Sure.
I mean, Rabba realized what happened, right? And he knew that he had, at least on a literal understanding, if you take the story literally, he had, he was guilty of
murder.
Of murder, yeah. And nevertheless, usually when you run into an issue,
drinking leads to bloodshed.
You try to avoid that, right? The next time around, you learn from your mistakes, right? The famous line from Albert Einstein, right? The definition of insanity.
Doing something over and over, expecting the same different results.
So Robin knows what happens when you drink too much, and nevertheless,
he invited him again.
He was inviting him again. So I understand, Reb Zera. That's one question, right? He said, I don't have no problem as long as I know for sure that I'll be revived. But what's Rabbi doing, inviting him back for round 2? What's that all about, right? And in general, the whole story really is very, very difficult. I mean, basically what we're saying is
the reviving is strange.
I mean, the reviving we have in other cases.
Well,
we have different cases in the Gemara. We have that, for example, the story of Antoninus and Rebbe, where Antoninus would go to Rebbe in the secret tunnel that he had. Antoninus was the emperor of Rome. He would go to Rebbe, and every time he would take one of his servants with him, and he would kill him at the exit in order that nobody should find out that he had gone to Rebbe.
Okay.
But the deal was that Rebbe
There's no drinking in that story.
There's no drinking in that story, the deal was that there could be no one else there with Rebbe.
Okay.
One day, one of Rebbe's students was there, and Antoninus says, "Who's this?" This is an angel. This is this is not.
It's not a real person.
This is not a real person. So he says, "Oh yeah, why don't you call my servant who's outside over there? Why don't you call him in?" The servant's lying there dead, right? So the guy goes, he calls the servant, and the servant comes. So Antoninus says, "I know that the smallest among you can revive the dead." But next time, we made a deal, so let's stick to that deal. But the point is that really bringing people back to life is not as strange as you might think in the Gemara. We encounter it a number of times in the Gemara. But the fact that an Amoira should be guilty of bloodshed, right? That's exceptionally strange. I mean, that's terrible. I mean, this is one of the 3 cardinal sins, right?
Right.
So yes, he was exempt from all
which, if you think about in the book of Genesis, 2 drinking stories involve Gilui Arayot, right? It's incest.
Sure.
And then here we have bloodshed, right? So drinking causes some really bad stuff.
So don't drink, right? So what's this?
That's the story. We can just stop here. Just don't drink.
Except on Purim. So what's the idea? Now there are some people who interpret the story allegorically, who interpret the story in a spiritual sense.
Yeah.
But it's clear from some of the Rishonim, you alluded to that earlier, who take the story quite literally. In fact, Rabbeinu Ephraim says that because of this story, we see that actually Rava's opinion is refuted. Rava says we should drink, and then the Gemara immediately brings the story. What's the Gemara bringing the story for? To refute Rava. They say, no, don't drink. You see what happened.
Right.
So clearly he takes the story quite literally.
Right.
So what's going on? Now, there's one other place in the Torah where we find a person, people passing away as a result of drinking. And that is the children of Aaron.
Oh, okay.
Children of Aaron, it says that the children of Aaron entered into the Heichal, right? And they offered up a strange offering which Hashem had not commanded them. Because of that, Hashem took their souls.
In the book of Leviticus, Sefer
Leviticus,
Vayikra.
right? Parshas Shmini. And then the Torah says, Yain v'sheichar al teish. Hashem says to Aaron, don't drink any wine. What's the connection?
What's sheichar?
Oh, I think we covered that already, no?
Okay.
So, don't drink any wine. And the commentaries explain why is Hashem responding? Why is this like the follow-up to the story? Because the reason that they had passed away was because they drank wine. They entered into the Beis HaMikdash in a drunken state. And again, the same question could be asked: what are the two sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, which according to the Medrash were actually on a higher level than Moshe and Aaron themselves? What are they doing, drinking wine, entering into the Beis HaMikdash?
You made Miluim, right? They were celebrating, right?
Okay. But still, a person shouldn't enter the Beis HaMikdash in a drunken state.
They were really excited.
Huh?
They really wanted
if
to
they were
offer...
maybe they didn't need any alcohol. If they're really, really excited, then what are they doing drinking alcohol? You're really excited, great, right?
Okay.
So the Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh says that the wine that they had drunk alludes to the secrets of the Torah. Now, we touched on this in one of the earlier episodes, that wine alludes to Bina, which is a deep understanding of the secrets of the Torah. In fact, Yayin is connected to Soid, secrets, right? So the drinking of the wine was a deep meditation on the secrets of the Torah, and they were so inspired, they were so aroused by that. In the language of the Ohr HaChaim, they could not hold back from drawing close. The expressions that he uses, Yedidus, Mesikus, Arevus, the sweetness, the love that they felt for Hashem, Ad klois nafshoisamehem, until their souls expired, their souls like sprang from their body, and that's what it means that they drank wine. So perhaps we could interpret the story of Rabbah and Reb Zera as a shearing of the wine of the secrets of the Torah, which brought Reb Zera to such a state that his soul expired from his body. Now that's a good explanation, but I think we have to take the story a little bit more literally, because in fact, even with the story of Nadav and Avihu, clearly there was physical wine involved, because the command that Hashem gives to Aaron is don't drink physical wine. In addition to all of the deep Kabbalistic explanation, or sheikhar. Yes. So in addition to all of the deep explanations of what does it mean not to drink wine, meaning don't meditate on the secrets of the Torah till you reach the state of expiration of your soul, because we're put over here down in this world to fulfill a purpose. Hashem wants us alive here to do Torah mitzvahs. That's one of the deeper explanations of don't drink wine to the state of drunkenness. But it clearly has a simple meaning as well. Don't drink physical wine. And therefore it must be that they actually drank physical wine. So how do we reconcile these two ideas?
Okay.
The Shalah HaKadosh of Yeshaya Levi Horowitz explains that tzaddikim, when they sit at a meal, and sometimes they say l'chaim and they drink wine, and they become happy, physically happy from the wine, they're doing it for the sake of heaven, and the physical experience of drinking the wine could bring them to a spiritually elevated state where they're more open and willing to share secrets of the Torah. And it actually brings them to a higher spiritual state. So we can connect the two ideas. Nadav and Avihu actually drank wine, but it actually brought them to an elevated spiritual state. It was the spiritual state which came as a result of the physical wine which caused their souls to expire. But they clearly drank physical wine as well. And the same we could say is for Rabba and Rabbi Zera. Rabba and Rabbi Zera are involved in this amazing Sudas Purim, and they're drinking wine, and they're sharing secrets of the Torah. Now, think of Rabba and Rabbi Zera, and think of what their names mean. So the name Rabba means great, right?
Yeah.
The name Zera means small, right? So Rabba is clearly more broad-minded. He has a broader mind, broader what we call in the language of Hasidus. He has broader kalim, broader vessels, intellectual vessels. He's able to handle more than Reb Zera. So he's sharing, he's appreciating these deep understanding of these secrets of the Torah, and he's sharing it with Reb Zera.
Yeah.
Right? And Reb Zera is taking it in, and he's getting excited, and he's to the point that it's just too much for him to handle, and his soul expires. That's it. He physically passes away. Right? Now, obviously, clearly, that's not the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation is to live here, to be alive in this world and perform Torah mitzvahs. That's what Hashem wants. So Rabbi davens and Reb Zera comes back to life. The next year, Rabbi says, "Come, let's do it again. This is a purely positive event. It was completely positive. There was no negative side to it."
Yeah.
And perhaps Rabbi thought that maybe over the year, maybe Reb Zera had reached this point that he's able to handle more. So maybe let's do it again. So Reb Zera says, "I'm totally on board, except that not every time does a miracle occur. I'm afraid that I might reach that level where my soul expires and it doesn't want to come back down. It's so excited, it's so inflamed with love and passion for Hashem that it doesn't want to come back down. So that's why I'm sorry. It was good, but I can't do it." That's the Hasidic take on the story of Rabbi and Zera. It's great. Yeah.
All right.
Chaim.
Chaim. So, as much as I love Talmud, as much as I love Gemara, what about contemporary Lubavitch practice when it comes to drinking on Purim? Can we, let's start with this. What to drink?
What to drink?
Yeah.
Usually the correct answer to that is whatever's on the table.
Great.
All right. Okay. I think that's
hard to argue with.
That's very specific.
You know what's shocking? I got to tell you, you read Megillas Esther, and all you can think about is wine.
Right.
Like you can't walk away from that book and say, wine was totally not on my mind. It appears so many times. Yet neither Rava nor Rebbe and Rabbi Zera ever mention wine. Like there's no specificity over what to get drunk on Purim.
Okay.
Which is
Rashi says "L'vsumi b'yayin."
Right, but in the Gemara itself, it doesn't specify.
Actually say wine.
Right.
Correct. Right. I mean, yeah. I guess that's true.
Right. I discussed in last.
Yeah, that's why in Chabad we want to be yotzei. We want to go according to all opinions. So we don't just stick to wine. Like I said, whatever's on the table. You know?
I mean, look, this has nothing to do with Hasidus, but in last week's episode, I discussed that they were living in Persia. They were living in Sasanian Persia, Bavel, in which beer was really prevalent. Yet, what's really fascinating is Rava is really into his wine. But meanwhile, his student Rav Papa is big into beer, right? And so I think it's fascinating that he leaves open the possibility it doesn't just have to be wine. Because Rava, by the way, how does he spend every Erev Pesach? He drinks wine, and he loves wine. He's a big wine lover, but he doesn't confine it to just getting Livsume Vapuria over wine.
Okay, so let me actually touch on that.
Really
beer.
open.
Let me touch a little bit on that beer aspect. That I know
Sheikhar.
that you're a big fan of Sheikhar, a little Sheikhar. Let's mix a little Sheikhar into this. I want to share maybe an original thought. That's a collaboration of myself and Rabbi Price from the community. I shared the first half of the Vort with him, and he came back with the second half of the Vort, which I think really...
it's collaborative Vort.
Yes, collaborative Vort. So we know that on Purim, Purim is called the second acceptance of the Torah, right? We're told that when Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people for the first time, The Jewish people said, Nasa v'nishma, we will do and we will hear, we will understand. First we'll do, then we'll understand. But at the same time, Hashem was holding a mountain over their head. The Gemara says that Kafa Aleim Har Ki Gigis, Hashem was holding a mountain over their head like a gigis, like a barrel.
It's Shabbat 88A, right?
It's somewhere in the 80s over there.
It's 88. Shabbat
the
88
begins on 86. I don't know exactly what page.
Shabbat 88.
Yeah. Okay. So what is a gigis? Hashem is holding this mountain, Mount Sinai over them. A gigis is a barrel. Rashi says what?
It's a beer barrel.
Shematilin ba sheichor.
Yeah.
A barrel in which you put beer. And Hashem is threatening the Jewish people. If you accept my Torah, great. And if not, whoosh, here you'll be buried. Right? So my thought was...
Wait. Keep going. You know who was the one who later on, after that, says Kimu v'Kiblu? On that daf, right there? Yeah. Is Rava.
Okay.
The same Rava
so let's
go with
that.
Kimu v'Kiblu.
Here we go. So what is the significance of holding the mountain over their head like a barrel, like a beer barrel? It could have said Hashem held the mountain over their head.
Can I interrupt you?
I don't know, like anything, like a rock. He was holding a rock over there.
No. It's not totally. He's not hanging it. They actually were encapsulated within the Har Kagigis.
Okay.
Because the rest of that Midrash says you can either accept the Torah, and if not, here's going to be your burial place.
Okay, well,
right? If you accept it, mutav, but if not, here's going to be your...
Right, but the idea of
you're encapsulated within the Gigis.
The literal reading of the Gemara says betachti sahar, that they were under the mountain,
right?
Not necessarily within the mountain.
They were.
And according to some interpretations, the holding the mountain over them was kind of like a chuppah, to facilitate the kiddushin between Hashem and the Jewish people.
What is a gigi? What is a gigi?
Gigi is a barrel.
Right. It's a hollowed out container.
You're assuming that he was holding it upside down.
They're encapsulated within the gigis or within the Tachtit Har.
Right? Have it any way you like.
That's the way I like to have that Midrash on Shabbat 88.
Okay. So anyhow, my thought is that why is Hashem holding this beer barrel over them? It's very, very simple. Hashem is telling the Jewish people, we're about to accept the Torah. How do we accept the Torah? We accept the Torah with a farbrengen. We need to make a farbrengen. Hashem tells the Jewish people, we need to farbrengen. I'm providing the liquor. I'm providing the l'chai.
Wait. Quick little pitch. Stay tuned for a future episode involving Rabbi Simpson talking about Farbrengen in the Lubavitcher culture, right?
Okay. Yep.
Stay tuned for that one in the future.
So, says Rabbi Price, he says, now we understand why it's important to get drunk on Purim, because Purim was the second acceptance of the Torah. And the first time was so good with the Kaf Aleim Har Gigas, with that barrel of beer.
Yeah.
So now we got to do it again the second time, and this time is the ultimate acceptance. Now we got to get drunk ad lo yadin until you don't know the difference between Ar Haman and Baruch Martin.
And they're both Rava.
And they're both
Rava saying Kibu and Kiblu on Shabbat 88, and also Chayvini Shlipsumenu B'Puri on Megillah 7b.
There you go.
It's all connected.
So that's the beer connection.
But it's whatever's on the table, so it doesn't have to necessarily be dafka with wine.
Absolutely, and not only that, this is very important to understand, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a lot. We don't condone drinking. Chas v'shalom. Disclaimer. The Rebbe once said that for the idea of drinking until a person doesn't know the difference, he doesn't know what's going on with him, it's the idea really of giving up a person's ego. Person all day long is kind of locked in himself, he's locked in his ego, and it comes Purim, we shed that ego, we reveal the essential connection between a Yid and Hashem. The Rebbe says that if a person is really willing to give up his ego, if you're really willing to go all the way, then a drop will suffice. And if you're not willing to give it up, then a whole barrel is not going to do the trick. You know, so it's really about where your mind is at, what your intentions are in drinking on Purim. A person should drink on Purim because that's what the Gemara says to do, right? That's the reason to drink, not because.
Why does Rava say that?
Not because Achashverosh drank, and therefore
we're not trying to imitate.
We're not trying to imitate Achashverosh over here and his party over here. We got to make sure it's a Jewish party, right? Like the Gemara says, "Lasis kirtzayin ish v'ish," like the Ratzon of Mordechai and Haman. We want to do like the Ratzon of Mordechai. Got to make sure it's that kind of party, not the other kind. Yeah. So we started off asking, why would someone not want to know the difference between Ar Haman and Baruch Mordechai?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we explained a little bit of what the holiday of Purim is. So the idea, just to come around full circle, is to explain that the idea is to reach a state. The Gemara doesn't say that a person should confuse Ar Haman and Baruch Mordechai, rather to reach a state where he doesn't know the difference between Ar Haman and Baruch Mordechai and still proclaim Ar Haman and Baruch Mordechai. The idea is to reach that state, and even on that state, to say, cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai. We can never forget what's right and what's wrong. On Purim, we're going higher and higher and higher and higher, reaching a state beyond, good and evil, right and wrong. And even on that state, we have to proclaim Ar Haman and Baruch Mordechai. And the Rebbe says that if we really fulfill Ad Lo Yada on Purim, when you reach the state of Ad Lo Yada, until you don't know, then your Yada, your knowing on the days following Purim, will be on a completely different level.
Really?
And that's the idea.
It's not affecting just Purim itself.
Not just about Purim. It's about drawing from Purim. Purim should invigorate our entire year. And that's the idea. Purim should be a real v'nahapichu. We transform the Ar Haman to the Baruch Mordechai. Yeah. We reach that stage that's beyond both, and with that power, we transform the Haman. We take out all the good sparks that were lost in the evil in the world. We elevate all those sparks, and we create a higher level of Baruch Mordechai.
Which, by the way, reminds me, earlier on you said it's a well-ordered, structured everything. I'm like, oh, what about V'naha Fochu? Like, I thought that would play into it, just
absolutely
overturning everything.
That's what it is. Yep.
Yeah. Rabbi Simpson, thank you so much. This was very enlightening for me, hopefully for everybody out there, as you as well, listeners, viewers, etc. And whether you're just celebrating Purim with your friends, whether you're going to Chabad house, celebrating with Chabadniks or whomever, hopefully this was enlightening for everybody. So thank you. Thank you again. And l'chaim, and have a happy Freilach Purim.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Very good.